Here in the Northern Rockies, dark winter months are outlasted in basements, dens, and nooks where kindred souls gather together to share intel, swap fly patterns, and relive the memories from seasons past. This gathering spot, known locally as the February Room, is the inspiration for this podcast. No matter the season, the door is always open to those with a fly fishing story to tell. Brought to you by CD Fishing USA, the North American distributor for composite development fly rods and accessories. 40 years of Kiwi ingenuity and graphite technology, now available at cd-fishing.us or your local CD USA dealer. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And remember to go fishing. Here's your host, the Carnops, and this is the February Room.
Alrighty, Justin here, and before I duck out for my own sojourn to the Pacific Northwest in pursuit of steelhead, I could think of nobody better than Zack Williams here, who is the editor of both Swing the Fly magazine and Backcountry Hunters and Anglers publication, Backcountry Journal. Zack, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Justin. Pleasure to be here.
Really appreciate you taking the time, man. I know you're busy working on the spring issue of the Journal. Can't wait to see it. You're doing a great job with that magazine, by the way.
No, I appreciate it. I not do a whole lot of the credit there, so got a lot of great people involved. So, and yourself included recently. So, great to have your story in there.
I really appreciate you guys including me in the magazine. That was a lot of fun. Article looked great, I thought. So kudos to you. Before we dive a little deeper into who you are and everything that you do, I'm hoping you can share a memory with us from your adventures.
Yeah. I guess one of my favorite trips. We all have them that I ever been on. It's been over a decade, but I think it was 2007, 2008. I quit my job and met up with a couple buddies down in Patagonia, and we spent the whole winter down there. And the whole trip, stands out as probably the most memorable fishing trip of my life. Certainly, 3 months unplugged. Sleeping in the dirt and literally, and just roaming around doing things as carefree as possible. I think, like when these trips are happening and these memories, you always think that you're going to get to repeat them. And as I've gotten a little older in life, I figured out that that's rarely the case, or never the case. Even if you do go back, I did go back to Argentina, but it's just not the same trip. So you better enjoy the moment. But the fishing story that stands out for me from that trip was we'd been down there for, I think, about a month, and we were traveling down the spine of the Andes. And, to be honest, we had some good fishing, but it wasn't easy. We had very little information that we were going off. And so we'd just show up at a river and try to figure out what we were doing and figure out where we could access things. But we hadn't caught any of the fish that were anything to really write home about. We had some fun. We were enjoying ourselves, but we ended up on this big brawling river, known for big trout, but otherwise not really knowing much about it. And I was first day on the river, and I was fishing my way down. I had an 8-weight single hander and like a 300 grain teeny sink tip on and a big streamer. And I'd caught a few 16, 18 inch rainbows, which was pretty good for how we'd been doing up to that. So I was having a good time, and this river is just gin clear and really powerful and deep. And so you have these holes that are, 15 plus feet deep. At least that's what they look like from shore, and deep right up to the bank. And the current is just ripping along. It's not like a rapid. It's just pure power. And I throw this big old white streamer out there and I'm stripping it in, but the current was so powerful, even with a really heavy sink tip, I could see the fly only a few inches under the water, and the sink tip couldn't punch through the current. I'm stripping this thing in, and when you see videos of like big tarpon like flush a fly where they swirl on it and water goes flying 10 feet in the air. That's what happened. And I kid you not, water flew 6-10 feet in the air. And before I blinked, I was 200 yards in my backing, and the river's too deep, and there was like overhanging willows and stuff, and I couldn't chase this fish. And we're in a foreign country. Obviously, we're there trout fishing, but there had to be fish in these rivers beforehand. And so I'm sitting there, and this backing's just peeling off my line, and I'm like, what kind of fish is this? It's not a trout, right? Like trout don't do this. And so anyways, somehow I stopped the fish, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, but I kind of, the old trick that you don't really know is going to work. I put my whole rod down in the water and pointed it at the fish, and just pointed straight at the fish and just started like slowly winding on the reel, and was able to just kind of lead the fish back upriver. And I don't know how long it took, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I have no idea. But I get backing back, fly line in, and this fish comes up and jumps, and it was a brown trout, which I think is funny because, I still hear some people say brown trout don't fight like rainbows and stuff like that. And I kind of get a chuckle out of it. But the fish jumped, and it's just kind of forever painted in my memory because it was this big hook-jawed male that, just was scarred up from spawning and fighting. And I don't know, he was 10, 12 pounds probably. And he jumped like 5 times. And I got him up, and, at this time, this is the fish of my lifetime. And I get him all the way in, and he's literally like 5 feet in front of me, and I'm reaching out to try to tail him, and the hook just falls out, and he goes down, and the water's gin clear, and he goes down, and he's like 7-8 feet below me, like right below my rod tip. And he just is recovering, and it's like kind of a back eddy of still water right there. And he just sits there. And so I just look at him for like 5-10 minutes. And I'll never forget that fish. The hook I was using at the time was this big Tiemco. It was a stinger hook, and it was, it looked like a wine corkscrew when I reeled it up and looked at it. And he just shredded everything. And so, I was like, fishing was everything. And I was completely devastated, like literally could not sleep for like 2 weeks.
Were you alone?
No, I was alone when that fish was on. Yeah, no witnesses, no nothing.
Always nice to have a buddy around. At least.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, my friends were skeptical of the story, and anyways, I couldn't sleep. We left that river, went and fished another one and stuff, but eventually, I convinced them to go back, and 2 weeks later, we ended up back there, and could be another long story, but I hooked, this time I pulled out a big steelhead spay rod, went back to the same spot as like a thunderstorm was coming in, and caught a fish that was equally as big or bigger, different fish, a big female brown, which was kind of redemption. But, the funny thing to me is now, after so many years later, it's the one that got away that stands out in the memory to me is that one. I can picture that fish better than if I had a picture, like an actual photograph of it. I think it's just kind of plastered in my mind. So.
But you landed the second one?
I landed the second one and got a photograph of it and everything. Yeah. So my friends had to believe me on that one.
Right. And how big was she?
Oh, I don't know, 34 inches or so, probably. I mean, I didn't measure it, but
nice.
You know, those kind of big trout like that are probably a whole lot more rare up here than down there, you know.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of 34 inches in the Blackfoot.
No. Anyways, that was, in terms of a fish story, that one stands out for me in my mind.
And so you guys were just freelancing around down there for 3 months?
Yeah. We, one of my closest childhood fishing buddies and I had been talking about doing that trip for quite a few years. And he had joined the Peace Corps and was in Bolivia. And he sent me like I don't know what it was, AOL Messenger or something, message this. We hadn't talked about it in a couple of years, and he's like, "Are we doing this?" And I'm like, sitting there. I've got a full-time job, one that I didn't really enjoy, and I'm like, "Yes, we are." And so I went and quit my job. I'm like, "I'm leaving." And,
that's awesome. You've got kids now, so the days of shirking responsibility and throwing in the towel are over.
Yeah. Things have a way of changing. You know, I came home from that trip and I was like, you know, I'm going back every winter, or I'm moving down there or something. And you know, that's what I mean. You can't really ever go back. It doesn't happen again.
Well, especially not for 3 months. And did you guys just fish trout in Patagonia most of the time, or did you have a chance to go chase Dorado or anything down there?
You know, we had kind of planned on it and time just got away from us. We wanted to go up. I had a lead on where to, you know, like a smaller river you could wade for Dorado in northern Argentina, but we never made it. So we went down the spine of the Andes and ended up all the way down at the tip fishing sea runs before finishing it out. So
awesome. And how was the sea run action?
One of my favorite places in the entire world. I don't know. There's something about those barren, windswept rivers that gets me. You know, I was kind of reliving it a couple weeks ago and found a little like video clip I'd taken of I'm standing there in the river with literally, as far as I know, without having any way of measuring it, hurricane force winds. You know, the waves are coming over my back on a still water section of river, and kept fishing through it. Learned a lot about fly casting and stuff like that. You know, because the wind rarely stopped for weeks on end, and so you learn how to cast and learn how to fish, and so. But those places, you know, the gauchos and the fish and everything about it, I just highly recommend.
Wow, yeah, that definitely takes a steelheader's mentality to go down there and wrestle through those conditions. That's not for everybody.
No, pretty similar, of course, to some of the things we would face steelheading. Yeah,
we went down to Argentina. This has been probably at least a decade ago, when I was producing an outdoor television show for the Sportsman Channel with Conway Bowman. Mm-hmm. And we had aspirations of fishing for golden Dorado and all those gin clear creeks and rivers and stuff that you see in all the photos. And we arrived in Buenos Aires and, you know, met up with the outfitter, and it was pouring rain, and they had like all-time record rainfall right when we got there. And he was like, everything's blown out, guys. We're just going to have to sit tight for a few days. So, you know, like 4 days later, we've been in Buenos Aires, downtown Buenos Aires, for days on end. And, you know, I'm sitting in the corner of this deli that I found on a little black and white TV watching the Masters in Spanish. and, drinking the local IPA, which was pretty good. But I was just bored out of my mind. And, finally he's like, all right, we're going to relocate. And we ended up going up towards the border with Uruguay, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And fished the Paraná River, which I believe is the second biggest river in South America next to the Amazon.
Yeah.
And it was a huge river. And it was off color. It was really tannin, but it was the only game in town. And, it was kind of like going out on the Columbia and kind of blind casting around. And we hooked some Dorados, some smaller ones, and hooked one or two bigger ones, but it wasn't quite the experience we were hoping for. But I would love to get back down there sometime. Like you said, just, the gauchos, the scene, the food, everything was super cool, even though we burned most of our time hanging out, in Buenos Aires and watching the Masters on a black and white TV screen.
I'm not much of a city person, but that one I've spent I think close to a month in Buenos Aires now, and as far as cities go, it's top of my list. So I also understand being trapped there. That first trip there, we were not trapped, but we were. I was waiting on my friends to get to Buenos Aires. My friend got delayed in Bolivia, and so I was stuck there for a couple weeks. And by the time he got there, I was losing my mind. So I feel for you. I was like, we got to go fishing now.
Yeah, I don't do well in cities, so it was. And you were kind of afraid to walk. We were just kind of on our own down there.
Yeah. Yep, it's an overwhelming city, I mean, population the size of New York City. My second trip down there, my wife and I, we rented a car in Buenos Aires, like in the middle of downtown, and which was just a terrible idea, as it turns out. And I was a poor at best driver of a manual, and so she did the driving and me the navigating. But we literally, I mean, it took, I don't know, 8-10 hours to get out of the sprawl of the city, and we had like a really like a handout map from the rental car agency, and no GPS or anything like that. And I navigated us based off of looking at the sun out of the city. Like, I was like, we need to go to the Andes south and west of here. And so we just drove south and west, and we would just we'd eventually hit a larger road, and we'd just turn onto the larger road. No idea what road it was, until finally we somehow ended up on a numbered road that I could find on the map. And, but it was an ordeal.
Adventure, though. You always remember those, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, good memories now. Not so much at the time, but that's the way a lot of it works.
Right. My wife and I, on our honeymoon, we were going to go to Cancun and then rent a car and drive down the Yucatan and maybe end up in Belize. And my mother-in-law is a flight attendant, so we just got standby tickets, and we were sitting at the airport, and they told us, okay, the flights to Cancun are full. Here's your options. You guys can go to Cozumel. We're like, all right, cool. So we go to Cozumel, and we had nothing booked or anything, and we just went from hotel to hotel and said, look, we got $35. You got a room. And it worked out. And, the car that you had reminded me, because we ended up renting this little beat up Volkswagen Bug, this Beetle.
Yeah.
Every panel was a different color. There was a hole through the floor, and it was a manual, but the transmission was just shot. I could barely drive it. I think it had 2 gears. Mm-hmm. But we ended up driving around to kind of the primitive side of the island. There's one hotel over there, one little motel with a bar and restaurant attached to it, and they shut the gates at 8 p.m. so people from the other side can't drive out there to protect the turtle breeding grounds.
Oh, cool.
you had the whole side of the island to yourself, and it just worked out awesome, and we would have never found any of that if we'd have gone to where we actually intended.
Yeah.
The road less traveled.
Yeah. I mean, I'm still a fan of only having a loosely laid plan and seeing where you can where you end up.
Those plans usually don't work out the way that you intend anyway. So you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now a brief message from our sponsors. High-performance graphite shouldn't break the bank. Check out the Tamer brand of fly rods for composite developments, available in 5, 6, and 8 weight. An unbelievable value at $199, Tamer 4-piece fly rods deliver smooth cast and precise presentation. Our Tamer kits include a Fly Lab pulse reel and weight-forward fly line. A river-ready kit for under $300. Go to cd-fishing.us or visit a CD dealer in Idaho, Montana, or Wyoming. And remember to go fishing.
Well, Zach, I imagine that the present state of steelhead kind of weighs heavily on your mind as an avid steelhead angler.
Indeed.
Yeah, man, the returns have been abysmal throughout the Columbia system and up and down the Pacific Northwest coast. As I'm sure you know, Washington has outlawed fishing from a vessel this year.
I do know.
Yeah, man. So kind of where do you stand in terms of whether or not we should be even pursuing these fish at this point? What are your thoughts?
Well, tough decision. I think something that everybody probably has to decide for themselves until somebody decides it for us. I can tell you that I spent over 20 years of my life pretty much solely dedicated to steelhead fly fishing, and I have not fished steelhead in 2 years. If you look back for 4 now, I was guiding on the Columbia Basin and stuff. So the previous couple years to not fishing at all, I was still guiding, but I personally fished a total of 8 hours for steelhead in those 2 years. And so I don't know. Personally, I would love to go out to the Olympic Peninsula right now. I've been seeing people fishing out there and stuff like that. But I have so much guilt about it at the moment that it's hard for me to enjoy when I do it. And so I don't know. I'm pretty on the fence with everything. But again, I also separate. I've been very fortunate to fish a lot of steelhead. I've had a lot of great experiences. So, like me beating up on a couple more fish, what does it add for me personally? Whereas somebody who's just getting into it, learning about the sport, learning about conservation and stuff, they probably gain a whole lot more from catching one steelhead. So that's what I mean when I think it's a personal decision. But in terms of the bait or the boat ban and stuff like that, I honestly, I think that we need to recognize that it's a privilege to fish for these fish. In my mind, they don't exist for the sole purpose of our recreation. Two, a lot of the blowback on that has been from the guide industry, which to me, as a guide and as a former Olympic Peninsula guide, it's extremely disappointing to me to see guides putting their self-interest first. And I feel like a guide's number one responsibility should be to the resource and to give back more than you take. And unfortunately, a lot of what I've seen has not been aligned with how I feel about that. So I could probably go on, but that's kind of how I feel. So, some sacrifices had to be made. I'm of the opinion that every fish counts right now. So we all know there's bigger issues, ocean stuff, all sorts of things, habitat, way bigger issues than recreational fishing impact. But if even catch and release mortality in the tiny percent that it is, if it saves one female steelhead that could have spawned and produced 3 or 4 more 5 years from now, which then, a couple of those females spawned, and, exponentially a few years from that, it's 12 more fish. So I think every one of those fish counts right now. And so I'm all for making some sacrifice to ensure that future generations can enjoy these places. And yeah.
I appreciate your position there. I can relate. I didn't steelhead fish last year at all. I don't think I did it the year before. I might have, swing a run on the lower Columbia on the lower Clearwater one afternoon or something. I don't remember, but I've hardly fished at all the last several years. And, this year, one of our mutual friends, Mike DeShore, went out, had a great trip. Then I fell for it. I'm like, all right, man, I got it. The itch was scratching, and
sure.
And I did go out this last fall and fish the Deschutes, and caught a really nice fish, had a great time, and I was going to go to I've never fished the Olympic Peninsula, by the way, and I was going to go out there this year, and I subsequently canceled my trip because it just felt kind of weird with everything going on, to show up and give her hell. I don't know, but I am going to go out to the Oregon coast and go hang out with my buddy and swing some flies and give it a shot. But yeah, I can appreciate your stance there, and I was very fortunate to grow up steelhead fishing and experience some really good years too. So I kind of feel privileged and a little like you do, where do I really need to go catch too many more of these in lieu of the situation?
Yeah, it's a personal. I on the other side of it, I do, when people say that, that a closed river, has no friends. I mean, we see the other side of it too, and so I don't want to see the rivers closed down. I don't want to see everybody stop fishing. I think that would be really sad, but I do hope that people can have a conservation eye, I guess, when they are out there, and everybody's going to have to make their own choices probably. And, but, do I really need one more fish? Like if you caught a fish, like how much better a day can you get? Like, I mean, do you need to catch another? And those are the personal questions, or do you need another for the trip even, like,
right.
At what point, is it made? Those answers are different for everybody. I know that at my point, I'd like to go catch, and I may go back to the Olympic Peninsula next year or something, depending on how things are at. After a couple years off, I've certainly got the itch to go do that, or to see a dry fly swing through the Clearwater. So, it's kind of a evaluate as I go process. I don't have hard answers on it other than we need to be really careful if we want, I'd like to have my daughter have the chance someday to catch a steelhead. So,
yeah, you and me both, man. So tell me about Swing the Fly magazine. How did you get involved in that? I don't know much about your background there. Did you start that publication?
I did. I had a couple partners for the first year or so. But yeah, it was an idea I just came up with, the idea kind of popped into my head, 2011, 2012. And actually started 2013 was when we put out the first digital issue. And really what led to the idea of Swing the Fly was I was a big admirer of the old Wild Salmon and Steelhead magazine that Tom Perrow put out. And
yeah, for sure.
It had since gone away, and I thought there was just a big gap in the steelheading culture is so rich and storied, the history of it. And social media, was kind of taking off. And there was a lot of friends of mine and, friends on social media, and I was seeing all these amazing photos and stories and, blogs, and this stuff was getting read by a couple hundred people or a few likes clicked on Facebook, and then it was gone forever. And I was like looking at some of this stuff, and I'm like, man, that's better than it's worthy of sticking around longer and recording kind of, there was nothing to record that history. Spay casting was taking off and, stuff like that. So I kind of started Swing the Fly as a tribute to that stuff. There's just so many neat people that really gave a lot to see it come together. And, I kind of tried to do the back end for it, but it's about all the people and the fish and not just the Northwest, but the Great Lakes and Atlantic salmon stuff. And then, as trout spay has taken off, we've tapped into that as well and try to cover that. And there's been so many cool people involved, and it's been a good time. It's been a lot of work, but here we are. And we did 9 issues digital only, and people kept asking for it in print. And we found a way to do a Kickstarter and do print, and did 20 issues in print. So another 5 years. And then just here recently, print costs had just kind of gotten out of hand on the quarterly magazine, print and shipping costs. So now I'm doing kind of a combination of a ramped up website, but then we're going to do an annual book to kind of keep something around for everybody who loves the feel of print and having something in their hands. We're going to do a hardcover book, which I think is going to be really cool.
Very cool.
So that's what's going on now with Swing the Fly.
When's that book going to come out, Zach?
September.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. And then hopefully it'll be an annual thing. If response continues to be good and stuff, it'll be an annual thing. So kind of Swing the Fly right now is kind of a membership-based platform. So the website has member-only content in addition to some free content. And then the book is part of those memberships as well.
Very cool. So, great idea.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's become a community, which is the part that I value the most out of it. The spay casting stuff is a tiny, tiny niche of fly fishing. And in addition to the authors and contributors, so many of the members and stuff have been so supportive and involved since the very beginning. And, I look through the subscriber member list and recognize the vast majority of the names and have chatted with a lot of them, met them at events. And it's cool.
Very cool, man. Speaking of spay casting, so DeShore, our aforementioned mutual friend, reached out to me a while. Yeah. We were chatting about something, and he's like, man, you got to see this guy cast. Zack Williams? And I was like, no, I've heard his name, but he's like, well, you got to check it out. So, I looked up some videos and watched some of your competitions, and pretty amazing, man. I would love an opportunity one of these days to go out on the river with you. So how did you get into spay casting initially, and how did that turn in to the kind of competitive side of that game?
How did I get into spay casting? I don't know. I'm from Michigan, so my start was in the Great Lakes, and I was just like 16 years old and working in a sporting goods store in Michigan, and we had a pro deal on St. Croix rods, and they came out with their Imperial spay rods, which were like retail like $250, and pro deal, I paid $92 for my first spay rod, and I could get really long-winded, but it was a process learning how to spay cast. I had an old I had recorded on VHS, just hit record on the TV show Fly Fish America. The host was with Scott O'Donnell and Trey Combs on the Skagit. And I'd recorded this one clip of Scott O'Donnell doing one Spay Cast. There was like a 6-second clip of a complete cast in the whole 30-minute show. And I'd rewind that over and over again to try to figure out how to do a Spay Cast. And so it was a slow process for a lot of years. And eventually more info came out there. Gosworth came out with the Rio Spay Casting DVD and stuff like that, which helped tremendously. And it was a long process. But I got into the competitive thing, I don't know, I guess about a decade ago, through knowing some friends who were into it, Gene Oswald, Bruce Kruck, and later Travis Johnson. And then as a guide, that full-time job that I didn't enjoy and quit to go to Argentina, I did really respect my boss, and he was kind of a mentor to me. And he had known that I wasn't going to stick around at that job, and he just told me, whatever you decide to do in life, be the best at it. Or if you can't be the best, be second best. And I don't know, I took that, and I haven't achieved first or second best at Spay Casting, but I took that as like kind of the cue to just really dedicate myself. When I became a Spay Casting and Steelhead guide, I wanted to be as good as I could possibly be at teaching Spay Casting, at understanding it. And the competition casting sometimes gets a bad rap with fishermen, but no other way would I have learned what I learned about Spay Casting that I've then been able to apply to every sort of fishing and fly casting in general and stuff. So it's been a really, really fun and rewarding journey, if nothing else. I love all the details of Spay Casting, and there's a lifetime of stuff to practice in there and master. So.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And like you mentioned, it applies to all fly fishing. I mean, I use Snap T-Cast when I'm bone fishing, trout fishing, whatever, bass fishing. So yeah, that arsenal of cast, it applies to just about every fishing scenario.
Yeah. The technique. Yeah. Same with me, a Spay Cast, you get you've in a boat on the flats, and you're probably not going to make the Spay Cast as your final delivery to the fish. But if you understand Spay Casting, the amount of time you can change the direction of your cast and efficiently. So you got a fish moving across left to right or something, and need to quickly change the direction that you're going to cast in. And little tools like Spay Cast help tremendously. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Or fishing a tiny little brush-choked creek with a little bamboo single-hander or whatever. It always comes in handy. So.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And now you are also the editor of Backcountry Hunters and Anglers publication, Backcountry Journal. How long have you been in that position?
Just 2 years now. Just went by quickly. But yeah, swing the fly. Swing the Fly led me to, the next step in life, and right opportunity came along, and I stepped away from guiding and find myself making magazines, I guess.
So now you're full-time juggling both those jobs, man. That's got to be a heavy workload.
It's a lot at times, It's a lot, I think, Swing the Fly at times was a full-time effort, and at times, I've made some recent changes to try to take a little bit, lighten the workload a little bit. But the Backcountry Journal and trying to put out a quality product is certainly time-consuming. So I don't fish as much as I used to, I'll be honest.
Well, and you have how many kids do you have now? One?
Yep, just a little 6-month-old baby girl. So yeah, the keeping busy at the moment, and
Yeah, you're no danger to the steelhead.
no, I mean, I'd be lucky to get, one trip a year at the moment, and I'm okay with that. There'll be other times for the fishing, hopefully.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, good on you for wasting 20 of your prime years
Yeah.
on the water.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've been lucky, I've been lucky to spend a lot of days on the water. So
For sure, for sure. What's one of your favorite steelhead flies to tie and fish?
there's a sentimental favorite. There's a little fly called the green ant, and the green ant was originated on the Clearwater and Snake Rivers and is featured in Trey Combs' book Steelhead Fly Fishing, and that was one that I kind of latched onto and was a favorite for me on the Clearwater, and it's my wife's favorite fly. Pretty much every steelhead, she hasn't done a lot of winter steelheading, and I think every steelhead she's ever caught has been on the green ant. She kind of refuses to use anything else. So,
Is it actually green?
Yeah, yep. It's kind of a kind of caddis green. At least the one I tie is not like a bright chartreuse, but kind of a Kelly green type pattern. So it's got a little peacock herl, squirrel tail wing. The original had a black collar on it, but I use a little grizzly collar for my version, and tie it real small and sparse, like a size 6 to 8 and sparse. That's a favorite for me for summer steelhead. Winter steelhead, I typically, I've got quite a few different color variations of one or two unnamed flies that are easy to tie, and but got a pink version, a black and blue version, and those spend the most time on my line or on my client's line when I was guiding. So
Right on. That's I'll look that fly up. That's interesting. Kelly green has been my favorite color on the Deschutes for a long time, and most everybody down there fishes purple or orange or black.
yeah,
And I've caught way more. I also fish it more often, but I've just got a ton of confidence in a Kelly green fly. The reason I started using that in the first place was because my buddies that were spin fishermen would fish those Kelly green blue foxes.
oh nice.
And so I was like, well, how come all these flies are purple and orange and black, and these guys that catch fish all day long are fishing green? So that's how I came to start fishing that color. But oh, cool! I'll look that. I don't remember that fly in the book. I'll look that up.
Yeah, I don't think it's even pictured in there if I remember correctly, but the pattern's in there. If you search the index in the back, you'll find it.
Cool. And for winter fish, you kind of stick to a few different colors, and then just kind of vary the weight. Is that your approach?
Yeah. Yep. I spent the majority of my guiding time with either pink out on the Olympic Peninsula, bright pink, in off-colored water, was always a go-to for me. And then kind of a black and blue, usually, when the water started to clear up. And I had other variations on that too. But over my years of guiding, I simplified things more and more, so I just tie a whole lot of a couple different patterns that I had a lot of confidence in, as opposed to getting all crazy with things. Although when I go, some of my winter fishing now, I like to fish a little bit more traditional, big D style fly or something like that, but they're usually in the same colors.
Well, those are my favorite colors to not catch winter steelhead on.
So what's your favorite color to catch them on?
That remains to be seen, man. I have not caught very many on a swung fly. And, especially since I moved to Montana, like trying to go hit a window from here has proven to be a pretty fruitless endeavor. By the time I get there, I've usually missed it, or I'm in front of it. So
Yeah.
but that's all right.
Yeah. Challenging rivers, to learn that stuff. I think for me, it's as a guide and stuff, and over the years, what increased success on winter steelhead was an understanding of the conditions and how, where to be when, based on when it last rained, how much, and what the water's doing, what river to be on at what time, stuff like that, what section to be on. That was always probably the biggest key. And then especially as the rivers got more crowded every single year,
Right.
Where can I go to avoid the crowds? And making those decisions is challenging and takes a lot of time.
That's a tough game, man. Being a winter steelhead guide is I liken it to being like a permit guide, that understands the tides and there's just so much knowledge that goes into it. And most of your clients go out there and they don't catch any fish, and they think, well, hell, that guy didn't know what he was doing. But it's a huge knowledge base.
It is a brutal way to make a living,
Yeah, no doubt.
Occasionally people tell me they want to get into it. I had a buddy call me a couple months ago saying he was thinking about guiding winter steelhead. I was like, are you looking to make money or have fun, or what's your goal here?
Get divorced? Yeah, what are you after?
Yeah, so.
Well, hey, man, thank you so much for joining us today. How can people reach out to you and join your website and get in touch with you? What are the best ways?
Yeah, Swing the Fly is swingthefly.com, and then Backcountry Journal is the magazine put out by the nonprofit Backcountry Hunters and Anglers. So you can join the organization, support conservation causes, and you get Backcountry Journal as a product of that, as a perk of membership. So appreciate the support of the organization for sure. But both of those have ways to contact me, of course, on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that too. Both of them.
Great, yeah, and Backcountry Journal is way better than it was before. You picked up a sinking ship there from your predecessor. Just kidding. Shout out to Sam.
Yeah, I was going to say, good people put a lot of effort into making that project come together, and it came a long ways over the years. So I'm honored to get to contribute continue the history of it, and hopefully keep it moving forward. But yeah, my predecessor Sam did an amazing job, and so.
Well, right on, man. Well, thanks again. I'm gonna go wander out to the river and go work on my spay casting before I got to go cast in front of my buddy John Hazlett. So.
Oh, nice. Well, good luck and have a great time. I'm envious, so that'll be fun.
Go to thefebruaryroom.com, where you can access a complete library of our podcast and read more about our guests, their fishing stories, and favorite fly patterns. We're always looking for exceptional fly fishing yarns, and if you have one to spin, shoot us an email at info@thefebruaryroom.com. The February Room is always free, but if you feel like throwing a nickel in the pond, we appreciate any additional listener support. For companies and individuals interested in sponsorship opportunities, please contact us for our media kit. Thanks for stopping by the February Room, and we'll see you down here next week.